Hello, this is Panda from the Paranormal Sisters. Uh, this is kind of a video to let you guys know that we're going to be starting something new, only because Panda and Nina aren't going to be together until next year. So, like, later next year, too. So, this is just a heads up of the change and kind of giving you an idea of what we're planning on doing. So there's going to be 2 new videos coming up, which would be like our last one that we did together. And that's about the graveyard. We went and visited it and did the spirit box session and stuff like that. So for the time being, what we're planning on doing is we would record ourselves doing our resin crafts, which is we have a shop called Resining Days. I'll link it down below. But so we'll just be doing the resin crafts while telling you a story, uh, either a true crime or just fictional. So if you'd like to hear a true crime story, stay tuned. Or if you just want to put this up just to see how the resin craft's gonna come, this is a Ouija board and I make a planchette to go along with it. And I hope you guys like it. And I hope you guys like this enough to stay tuned. Once we actually get together, we'll get back to investigating and stuff like that. I do apologize. And, there'll be more PS reviews and stuff like that. So stay tuned. I promise the future holds lots of great things. So today I'll just be telling you guys about a true crime. I just randomly opened the book of serial killers to Ivan Milat. So here we go. So today we're going to talk about Ivan Milat. Um, he was born December 27th, 1944, which I don't really appreciate because that's my mom's birthday, just not the 1944 part. That's not right. He is an interesting fella. He was one of 14 children. Him and his siblings kind of lived freely because his parents were hard workers, so they weren't home very often, and so that allowed him kind of to pick up the hobbies that he was interested in without any repercussion. um, he liked hunting and had a fascination with guns. One of his brothers said that he might have had psychopathic tendencies then, but it's neither here nor there, apparently. um, he was, I think, the only one that was known by the police. From the age of 17, he just kept getting arrested for armed robbery, battery, car theft. But it wasn't until 1971 when he started exhibiting violent tendencies. There were 2 women that were hitchhiking, and they claimed that Milat had AR'd them at knife point. They went to court. He was arrested, but was let off because there wasn't enough evidence. And 20 years later, bodies started turning up in the area, and all eyes were on him. I do want to point out that all this is happening in Australia. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of this story, but all of this is happening in Australia. So yeah. In September of 1992, the bodies of Caroline Clark and Joanne Walters were discovered by two people running Belangolo State Forest. The bodies were decomposed, but they found out that it was the two women that went missing in April of 1992 from King's Cross in Sydney. Walters was stabbed a total of 14 times. There was 1 wound in the neck, 9 in the back, and 4 in her chest. The wound on her neck would have left her paralyzed instantly. Clark, on the other hand, was shot in the head 10 times. Tad overkill, don't you think? In October of 1993, some bones were found in the forest as well. The cops discovered 2 more bodies. They belonged to James Gibson and Deborah Everest. They disappeared in 1989. Gibson had similar wounds on his neck and would have been instantly paralyzed. He also was stabbed in the chest and the back. Gibson had numerous wounds and had clearly been savagely beaten. Her skull was fractured in 2 places and her jaw was fractured. She had knife wounds to her forehead and was stabbed in the back. A skull was found in the forest in November of 1993. It was first identified as belonging to the missing German hitchhiker Simon Schmidl. If I am pronouncing any of these names wrong, I do apologize. I'm not the best with names, mainly because there's a lot of people that pronounce their names differently than how it's spelled, and my brain can't function. But back to the program. When her skeleton was found, they discovered that her spine and body were totaling at least 8 altogether. Clothing was found nearby, but it wasn't hers, and they believed that they belonged to Anja Habishid, another missing backpacker, who had discovered, along with her boyfriend, Gaber, I'm not even going to pronounce the last name, I will put it up right here. They were discovered in 1991. The bodies of Anja and Gaber were found buried in shallow graves, and Anja had been decapitated, but her head wasn't near the rest of her remains and had never been found, while her boyfriend was shot 6 times in the head. I would like to now kind of tell you the ages of all the known murderers, at least. So, Deborah and James were 19, Simon was 21, and Gaber was 21. Anja was 20, Joanne was 22, and Carolyn was 21. In 1994, there was a report that was placed by a Paul Onions. It stated that he was a hitchhiker and he was picked up by a man named Bill. He was held at gunpoint before escaping, and when Bill was firing at Onions, he jumped into a vehicle and escaped. So once that report fell on this detective's desk, he did a little bit more digging and found out that Milat's girlfriend actually said that he should be questioned for the murders that happened in the forest. Once they did some digging on Milat, they discovered that he had a history of abducting women and R-ing them. So he was clearly brought in. So in 1994, he was taken to court. Onions came back from England. He went to Australia and identified him as the man that was shooting at him. And it ended up that he got 18 years in prison for the charges on attacking onions. And each murder he received a life sentence to be served consecutively and without parole. Milat is suspected to have committed more murders, but because of lack of evidence, they can't convict him on it, and he's not talking. But his brother Boris said that in 2015, Milat had confessed to him that he had killed a taxi driver named Neville Knight in 1962. There was a man already serving a sentence for that murder, and Boris and the murderer, well, suspected murderer, Alan Dillon, both took a polygraph test, and it showed that neither of them were lying. Although nothing's come of this, 'tis very unfortunate, but I mean, I guess the courts are all the same no matter where you live. So at the end of all of these, there's like these little trivia points. There's a couple of these that are actually pretty interesting. One of them being that in 2001, while serving his life sentences, he deliberately swallowed a number of items, staple, razor blades, or any other metal object he could find. He also went on a hunger strike in 2011 because he wanted a PlayStation. He lost 25 kilograms and never received the PlayStation. um, Also, his great nephew, Matthew, was found guilty of murder in 2012 after killing a man with an axe in 2010. He was sentenced to 43 years in prison. His friend had recorded the whole thing, and for his part in the murder, he received a sentence of 32 years. But now this is pretty interesting. John was the first lawyer that Milat had, but he was fired before the trial, so he never went with him to trial. But he made a shocking statement on his deathbed in 2005. He claimed that Milat's sister had helped him in the murders of the British backpackers. That would be pretty insane and pretty crazy. But because nothing ever happened to about the whole Alan being innocent and Milat's the one that murdered Knight, I don't think anything's gonna happen with it. I mean, who's to say that it's true? Even though it's a deathbed confession and technically you're supposed to take those seriously. Who knows? But that's it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Next time, it's going to be Nina's turn, and I don't know what she has planned for you. I also am very curious. Between mine and hers is going to be the two-part video about us in the graveyard. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys later. Stay spoopy. Bye.